The Sharpest College Football Podcast. This is our Week 13 preview. I am BuckMetrics, joined as always with Robert Martin. Welcome to those of you who joined us in the Week 12 review. And if you did not catch that, I will go through the formalities, duck my head, and just look over what is my left shoulder. You can see my wife dropped some Christmas decorations in my home office because she's very thoughtful. Got our holiday decorations done. As I had a better week than our picks. I'll just say that. I was disappointed when I actually looked at our picks, Robert, because I was up almost 5 units for the week, and I was expecting, as I was reviewing, to be the same. I will say that we had two plays that were actually, I did not play because when the numbers dropped available to me, they were no longer plays. We were pretty close on those being SMU and Maryland. And then I also grabbed a number. I'm not sure how to work around this. We can figure this out in the offseason maybe. This usually doesn't happen. Usually if there's a total and I miss the number, it almost never moves into a bettable position, but that exactly happened in Texas, Arkansas somehow. So I grabbed a big under on that. I think your model had that going under too. So that went from nothing to a dual model play. Anyways, long story longer, I did better than our numbers. I apologize for that. I still get them as losses because I want to be super transparent. I'm done monopolizing the introduction. Robert, it is good to see you again. You want to say hello to all of our listeners here?
Yeah, no, it is Christmas time now. It's a little early. Usually the Christmas stuff doesn't come out till American Thanksgiving. But yeah, I think everybody this year is just like, screw it. Yeah, let's do this Christmas thing now. Let's do this. And yeah. No, it's good. And normally I'm one of the ones that's yeah, you know what? It's too early, but I'm like now in the last couple days I've just been like, yeah, whatever. Let's do some holiday cheer. That sounds like a good thing this year. But yeah, it's yeah, no, it is weird though for the picks though. Again, we had I played the money lines along with our three 10-point dogs, so I got some back on that. I actually had a pretty good week too. I think our picks were because the thing is we had some really good picks and then some that were like unfortunate. Like I think we had Maryland, Sam Houston State, SMU. There was some stuff that got dragged down a bit. Some of the unders did I think a bit poorly, but again we did have three 10-point dogs that went 3-0 and two of them went outright. That's pretty cool when we have something like that in any given week.
And if you don't know which one didn't win straight up, you might want to listen to the Week 12 review, and it'll be pretty apparent from the latter part of that episode when we get to a certain award, which team failed to come through on that. It's pretty clear. All right. Having said that, if you are new, we appreciate it. This is our glossary. Do a screen grab of this, paste it in your college football workbook, refer to it throughout this and the other episodes for the rest of the season. If you're returning, thank you so much. We appreciate you listening. For the week, just like I said, 8-7, although I did much better than that, and hopefully you all did too. By the time the pod dropped, I think a couple of those that were losers were no longer available. The Marcus did us a favor in that regard. And like I said, Arkansas, Texas under suddenly came into the screen, was not on the screen until then. Remaining at 56% for the season, which is more than okay. Professional level, basically, an 18% ROI since we started tracking these picks now in year 3. Pretty freaking good, I will say. With that, let's do a couple of lookbacks here. Boy, we just whiffed on this. Tulane at Navy. I wasn't really wild about this one too, because I've been saying basically for weeks and weeks, wow, look at all these positive signs for Tulane. Great quarterback. And then they jumped into the top 10 in like a specific defense, then another top 10 in the run defense, and then jumped into the top 24 overall defense. Basically unbeaten since losing at Oklahoma, a game that was closer than looked. A lot of good signs there, and wasn't wild about this, but I'm not going to argue with the model. Wasn't sure I saw 35-0 coming into play here. Really, what happened here was this Navy passing offense that's been great this year, negative 118 apex on the game. And when you can't run the ball in your Navy, that's going to happen. I think Blake Horvath is still hurt, the Navy quarterback, but Tulane just completely shut them down. Takeaways from here, I'm still concerned about the health of Blake Horvath, the Navy quarterback. He's been so good. Tulane's got a good defense, but I think if Horvath is healthy, you're not going to see numbers that are this low. That's my take. What do you take away from this?
He was knocked out for part of the game as well. That did hurt. But Tulane is terrifying. They are a really good team. And again, this was supposed to be roughly a rebuilding year for Tulane, and they are already pretty terrifying. Yeah, pretty good. Navy, again, obviously we didn't see zero, but Navy did get beat down pretty bad by Notre Dame. Maybe we were a little too high on Navy. Is it possible maybe we're a little too high on Army because of that? I don't know. I don't think so. Army has just been better than Navy as well. But again, we're gonna find that out. Army Navy, and I think we're talking about that game a bit later. So we're gonna see if we're just days away from figuring out if Army is legit or not. Yeah.
Yeah, I would put it. I might frame it a different way. You've got Navy with really miserable showings against Notre Dame and Tulane, and then in between they actually dominated South Florida. I might just say this: how many teams in a span of 3 games have opponents as tough as Notre Dame and Tulane? Not many outside the SEC or Big Ten. I guess I'd say. Is that fair? That's a tough call for an American team.
Mhm. It is. Yeah. It's a tough sledding, but yeah, Tulane is that good. They've ever since their losses earlier in the year, they've just been a terrifying team, and watch out for them next year.
Yeah. All right, the other look back, and this is becoming a recurring theme and should inform. This informs why I didn't jump on this number because I learned my lesson from the look back when we had West Virginia a couple of weeks ago and they just completely blew up that Cincinnati game. This is a 10-point game. There's the answer to the question we were trying to figure out in the week 12 review. Our models loved SMU here, and news that broke might have broken before we actually dropped the pod and just we didn't realize it that Thomas Castellanos left the program after Grayson James was named the starting quarterback for Boston College. Grayson James forever in the lexicon of the sharpest college football podcast for his amazing debut in the 2023 season, apex of worse than negative 100, just an all-time horrible performance. And yet I was not enticed. This number went up to 18 on that news, and it crept up and up through the week. And even though he was so bad when we last saw him, it didn't seem unreasonable for Bill O'Brien to do a little miracle worker project here. And it worked. They covered pretty handily, especially with that number going skyward. Grayson James, unsuspected performance here. I'll just say it as that. And this is something again that I think is going to be one of those themes. When you have I'm going to be very specific here. I think if you told me before the season Grayson James stinks, I will say, yep, I know this guy, he stinks. And I think you've got to be really careful and specific when you're looking at a quarterback change from week to week. You need to know exactly how good the quarterback that's going out is and exactly how good the quarterback that is coming in that spot. I'm going to say in that spot because Grayson James made it clear that he stunk at FIU. We had no idea that he had talent. He could actually perform reasonably well against a good pass defense, SMU, just with the right coach. So my takeaway is when there's a QB change, you need to know all the possible variables about the new guy and the space that he's coming into before you just say, okay, yeah, I'm fading this kid.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think it's a little iffy for you to say. If you had said, "Oh yeah, it's Grayson James," and by the way, they're going to outperform what we think Thomas Castellanos would. Don't think that was going to be the case here, right? One point I will make here is that look, I had SMU on 35 points, you had them 37, they got 38.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good accuracy there. That's exactly what you're looking for there. But the Boston College 28, we did not have that. We had 18 and 4. That's the difference in the game, right? It's hey, Boston College actually did things and we were not expecting them to do things, and that's the entire difference.
All right. Good point on that. All right. The BuckMetrics through week 12 here. Texas remains in the top spot, basically as close as the states of Wisconsin, Michigan and Pennsylvania in the recent elections over Ohio State. Interesting on a neutral field. Just not sure how I'd go. Don't know if I'd argue with the model, but we can figure that out later. There's still more data points to be had. 3 new teams in the top 20. Texas State, they put it too. I think they played Southern Miss this week. This was just miserable. They they cashed that under ticket early in October, I want to say. 4.5 wins. Thank you very much. But Texas State just jumps into my top 20 at number 15. You don't like them as much at 35, probably because they are a little bit one-sided. This was really surprising. Central Florida, they jump into both mine and yours top 20s. I think a big part of that is that just the drubbing that ASU put on Kansas State. I think that just improved Central Florida's what looked like a lackluster performance. It probably gave them a lot more shine. And I think it's really interesting that they jump in both of our polls here. And UNLV jumps in. Like I said, they're they're the best team in the Mountain West, and they're going to miss that title game because of Chernobyl. We'll just keep it at that. A little scheduling miscue. Unfortunate for the Rebels. They are a good team here.
Yeah, a couple things I love on there. One, we both have BYU at exactly 20. I love that. And I think because we had BYU a bit higher before, and that's exactly where that is. We both uniformly agree on Army there. 6 and 7, that's good.
Mhm.
Tennessee, we both dropped them a little bit. I dropped them a bit less. You bring up Georgia, I think, a bit more. I bring them up a little bit too, but we still have. But like again, we still. Like, I think a lot of people are now like, oh, okay, maybe Ole Miss is better than Georgia, but not by much. Maybe just like a spot or two. No, we both have Ole Miss decisively ahead of Georgia there as well, which I think is key. Also, but we also have Alabama ahead of Ole Miss, right? It's interesting. The way the rankings shape up are very interesting, I'd say. Um, I think my model believes less in Tulane, which is interesting. But no, I think overall we mostly agree on a lot of this. We agree on, I think, more things than we disagree on in terms of the rankings. But yeah, at this point, I a lot of this kind of doesn't matter. We have a rough feeling of what the field is going to be for the CFP. It just matters is who wins what game at what point, and that's what's going to determine it. So
Yeah. One thing I'm going to bring up too, and let's just try to remember this, is your model still remains unconvinced about South Carolina. We've seen the observation that your model doesn't like the one-sided teams that my model doesn't care about, as long as your total is good. I'm curious, your model wasn't convinced by that performance. Now, maybe it's because Missouri's defense kind of stinks. So, South Carolina plays Mercer this week. I think they played or Wofford or one of those teams. So, there's no island time possibility for them. But let's just try to remember that if they're not a dual model play against Clemson, we should throw them into island time, because I'd like to dig into your model versus my model in terms of we've got this discrepancy 13th versus 29th and how that equates to a performance against Clemson, whom neither of our models, I believe, have in the top 20.
and I like that.
All right. Top offenses. Not a lot of movement at the top, but two new teams in the top 20 here. New Mexico. No surprise if you saw that game. Now, Washington State is not, they're actually a pretty bad defense here, but New Mexico State just moved the ball at will in the second half. And like I said, Texas State just ran it up against Southern Miss here. No big surprise if you've seen New Mexico State play lately that they jumped in here. Not really the narrative I saw happening before the season. Let's not remember they lost a really good offensive coordinator. Didn't really believe in their offensive coordinator coming in, but congratulations to them.
Yeah, I again, it is surprising, but again, this is something that we picked up on last week. We both had New Mexico against Washington State, and again, they're just pretty good on offense. And this is the trend line where our models and our data picks up on a team, and then based on what we see in these final weeks of the season, and sometimes in bowl games, but mostly just the final weeks of the season here, we then start looking at next year because we were already ahead on New Mexico. Now, and New Mexico and Kennesaw State are the teams we're seeing now that are doing better than we expected. We're now ahead of the ball on them. So now people are going to underlook them in the previews. We're going to be ahead of them, and people are going to be like, next now 4 weeks into the season, people are like, man, New Mexico, no one saw that coming. And we're like, no, the foundation for that was here. That was here when they beat Washington State, a team that you guys all overvalued. That's when this began. That's when people were like, hey, this New Mexico State actually is a good team. Not in the future, not in week 4 next year when they upset like Boise State or something. That's not when they were actually good. It was decided now, but that's beside the point.
If New Mexico can keep Devin Dampier, I think that'll be
Yeah, that's
the
actually the key point too. Yeah.
yeah. As far as Kennesaw State, I just might make you wear that next season, buddy. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see
Okay,
about that.
at
Yeah,
least
but
at
you
least a
make
win
a good
total.
point.
At least a win total over. A win total over for Kansas State, I feel, is warranted at this point.
That might be a good play. I could see the number just coming back at 2 again, or actually going down to 2, and people just overlooking the near competence on defense. All right, but back to offense here. Boy, I'm just sad that UNLV is probably not going to make the Mountain West title game. Good defense. Hajj Malik Williams has been a top 10 quarterback, and now they're a top 10 run offense here. That is a tough break. We've talked about SMU, just competent, just plus all around. So it doesn't surprise me that now they're a top 10 passing explosiveness offense. But what really surprises me, I talked about this last week in my things noted. Caden Hauser has had an apex of over 200. in his 2 starts since Mike Houston got fired. And look who's in the top 10 in passing explosive offenses now. My goodness. East Carolina, number 10. I did not have this. If I was one of those senior citizens with 15 bingo cards, this would not have been on any of my bingo cards. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy to see ECU up there. I was not expecting that, but again, here we are, right? It is. There have been some interesting outcomes this year that we didn't expect, and ECU being up there is definitely one of them.
Yeah, boy, to be determined. I just really interesting team to watch. Now, who knows with the portal what they'll keep together for their team next year, and if Hauser stays there, but something to keep an eye on for sure. Not much movement here in either any of the player metrics here for Apex or Ryan. No new names on the Apex list. I will point out that after playing Boise State, San Jose State has now 2 of the top 5 most explosive receivers. I'm going to keep on saying it. That spread and shred is proof of concept plus at San Jose State in year 1. And I am dying to know what would have happened if they didn't have that overmatched kid in the first part of the season before they moved to Walker Eget. I need to master that name. That's a tough one. Doesn't really roll off the tongue here. Anything on either of these two?
No, yeah, no, I think that the quarterback apex makes a lot of sense. Dylan Gabriel has been going down that list a bit, and yeah, the some interesting stuff there with the player Ryan. Yeah.
You know what's interesting too? I'm just noticing this. Don't want to. We'll just say contender plus. Just very possible playoff teams. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6. Right? They're a possibility. Definitely. They're probably a little bit behind Boise, but I think they've got a really good path. I think if they win out, it's going to be really dicey to keep them out. Number 7, absolutely. Now it's 5 or 7, but both these guys are still in it. And 8 definitely. 9 is obviously in. Louisiana just lost their second game, and their only other loss was to Tulane. Really interesting here. Sometimes I fight just who's got the better quarterback, but my gosh, look at this. This list is just
Hmm.
absolutely testament to that.
It is, yeah, and it is interesting that again, there was a time when being on this list wouldn't mean anything, right? It would just be like, okay, are you one of the top 4 teams? And now it's 12. Now most of these are quarterbacks. We're gonna get to see them in the playoffs now, and in games that actually mean something. Before it was like if you weren't winning one of the conferences, you're going to the Sugar Bowl or the Rose Bowl or something. Now you can actually still go to those bowl games, but they're actually going to mean something. You get to play meaningful December football.
The other side of that discussion, the bum list. A couple of new names here. By the way, congratulations to your Ducks on beating the number 6 guy on the bum list here. I'm sure you were frightened when Braden Locke got the ball back with about a minute and a half left. You're probably just laughing out loud at that, just like, all right, let's see this one, buddy.
That was the thing, right? Because people are talking about the fake punt, and I love it. I think the thing is, again, you get that yard, it's it, game over, right? Done. Game's over. You kneel it out, end the game. It was a great play. Didn't get there, but at the same point in time, I think there obviously I think Dan Lanning was sure whatever. Go ahead, try, go for it. You
Yeah,
want to go 70 yards,
yeah.
go for it, right? I think the other thing to that is that like when you look at this and this you see this a lot more in the NFL than in college just because the games are more closer. But the whole when you're up 3 and you're in your opponent's territory and there's like a minute, 2 minutes left in the game, whatever, something like that. There's math that says you actually shouldn't go for don't kick the field goal to go up 6
Mm-hmm.
because
Just
what
keep it going.
happens is yeah you either like, try to get the first down or you try to get the touchdown because what happens is if you kick the field goal then you force the opponent to try to get a touchdown. Now yes, could you stop them from getting a touchdown? Yes, that's fine, but the problem is you're going to play prevent defense more, you're going to give them more free yards. That's the thing. But if you're only up 3, then hey, your opponent gets to the 30-yard line. They're hey guys, all we have to do is just not cough up the ball here, run a couple plays, bleed out some clock. We can kick a field goal and we can go to overtime, right? We cannot lose this game. But if you force the opponent to try to win the game, then that's when you actually lose the game because what happens is then they actually try to go down and get a touchdown to win the game. But if not, if they're just down 3, they're generally trying to go down to trying to go down the field to kick the field goal to tie the game, right? So there's some interesting psychology on that. So I actually do that play call there by Dan Lanning.
And to that point, let me just ask you this. Or I'll say something you can tell me I'm way off or not. If I'm a Wisconsin fan and you can say, all right, they screwed up the special teams call did not turn out on the fake there. We have a chance here to march down and take the lead here. If you gave me the choice of Braden Locke, number 6 on this list, or Davis Bryson, who is the quarterback at one beloved Kennesaw State, who has somehow twice led improbable late touchdown drives in the fourth quarter, I think I'm going with Mr. Bryson. Is that a fair
Yeah.
statement? Yeah.
No, it is, right? The Wisconsin quarterback has not been good at all, including in that game. Yeah, there's a lot of problems there in Wisconsin. Now maybe they could turn this around. I think they fired a lot, or no,
They fired Longo,
Wisconsin.
the OC.
Yeah, they fired the OC, so maybe we can get some changes in there. But again, at this point, it's offense, it's quarterback, probably some of the power running game, probably some wide receivers. There's a lot of problems. It's not just one or two things. There's a lot of problems there, and I think they need to fix those problems before they can get back as a strong team in the Big Ten. But again, they could, right? But they need some pieces to do that.
Not to belabor the point, but to distinctly belabor the point. I dare you to find anybody that was quicker than me to say Phil Longo is not going to work at Wisconsin. I think literally the day it was announced, yeah, misfire by Fickle. It's not a match, and they had to choose. They had to choose an identity, and they wound up losing both. They're neither a good offense nor defensive team right now. So yeah. All right, and so the two new quarterbacks on here, Dylan Raiola, pushed into the bum list by my own USC Trojans with a surprisingly competent pass defense. We'll get into that on Island Time. And Garrett Green, if Neil Green, just I'm stuck on these guys with collars his last name. Neil Brown gets fired, it's because of stupid decisions like this. Because I will remind you, Robert, as we just talked about in last week's Sharpest Look Back, what did I mention? What blew us up in that West Virginia Cincinnati game that cost us that? It was the new quarterback, I forget his name, Colicchio maybe. So, of course, he had a 140 apex. And what does Neil Brown do? Hey, let's put Garrett Green back in there because, I don't know, maybe he can play his way on the bum list. And it happened. Congratulations, Neil Brown. Really well done.
Yeah. No, it's not great. I don't understand why if you get good response from another quarterback, you try to go back to the well. That's the mark of a coach that's going to get fired. But yeah, it's very iffy for me on that. I think that was the definitely wrong call, and they lost. And we'll see what they do this week. But if they stick with Garrett Green, then we're going on. We already have not who's playing this week. Oh yeah, well we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about the possibility to fade them
Oh,
later.
yeah.
But
Yeah. No, we have that one. Yeah, we
yeah,
do
no,
have that one.
no, but yeah, no. You if you get a better response with one quarterback, you really should. You should be keeping that quarterback in there.
Yeah, it's not like you're keeping Caleb Williams or Tim Tebow on the bench there. All right, top 20 defenses. Only one change here, but man, how about this? I don't know if you asked anybody, not that my metrics are universally known, but they are to the smart people that are on this podcast. Which side of the ball is Colorado better on? I have them as a top 20 defense. Was not expecting that. From out of nowhere, dude. I just did not see that coming, but congratulations, Colorado. They've been on fire.
Yeah, they have been really good. I feel like they got the noon game, so there was a lot more focus on them this week than in other past weeks, and they just torched Utah. Utah is a team every week we pick winners and losers of the week, and I feel like if every week you just pick Utah, you're not that far off. Uh, the thing is that's actually half true though. Every week it's just, oh,
No.
this is bad. Oh, this is worse. Oh, this is somehow even worse. Again, I don't want to give them too much credit for beating up on a Utah team. They got lucky in a couple of those spots too. There was a couple of there's an interception that definitely shouldn't have been an interception. That was like a batted ball that was going to it basically just got batted into Travis Hunter. And it's just like, come on, that's a Madden play. That happens. I see that happen in Madden. The insane things where balls deflect randomly off. That's not okay, it happened, whatever. That's fine. And it happens sometimes, but that's a very fluky thing. You would not bet on that repeating. No, you want to give them some credit, but I'm a little remiss to give them a lot of credit, though. That being said, though, Colorado does play Kansas this week, which is interesting because Kansas has been. It's so funny because we were like early going into the season, we were like Kansas is a good team. And then they lost a bunch of games, and we're like, okay, maybe Kansas is a bad team. And then now they've just decided to just destroy the entire Big 12 in the last couple of weeks. They upset BYU. They upset Iowa State. They upset BYU. Now they're going to go play Colorado, and then they end off with I believe, is it Kansas State, or no? They played Kansas State already,
No, I
didn't
think
they?
that's Iowa State is against Kansas
Iowa plays
State.
was Kansas State. Yeah, Kansas plays someone in the final week, and it's funny how people are like, oh man, this Kansas team is good. We thought that, and then they weren't, but now they're good. I don't know, man. It's
Ooh,
weird. I'm not. Yeah, go ahead.
secretly spicy game. Kansas at Baylor. Baylor with all pistons firing on their offense too.
Yeah. But no, I'm not ready to seal it in for Colorado yet. I think there is now a little too much hype on this Colorado team. I think they're good. I think Travis Hunter is good. I think Shador Sanders is good. They weren't really the problem, right? We had a lot of questions on this team going in. I did not think they were going to be a top 20 defense, though, but they've really impressed with that the last couple of weeks. So shout out to them for getting up on this list.
Yeah, did not see that coming at all. All right, the top 10 pass and run defenses by my metrics. All right, I'm not going to deny that Oregon has a good pass defense. I just want to say you did that. You jumped up to number 10 by facing Braden Locke, so congratulations on that. Let's see if they stick after Washington. That'll be a good test. Although Washington has benched Will Rogers, which is an interesting development. This is just the most fraudulent one right here. Boise State, great. This is already a stacked number because basically you just do an all or nothing kind of scheme on defense where you either sack the quarterback for a 10-yard loss or you give up just a giant passing play. Just a few slides ago said San Jose State, after playing Boise State, now has two top 5 receivers in terms of pass explosiveness. So congratulations, Boise. Plus, you jumped up here not only by virtue of your skewed defense, but they just played a team that doesn't even try to run the ball in San Jose State. San Jose State is just run game is incidental. They're basically an extreme version of the Mike Leach offense in that regard. So I'll put it this way. I believe in Oregon's pass defense much more than Boise's run defense.
True. Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about some games. We've talked about Island Time. That'll be dropping. We're going to be recording it Wednesday night. That'll be dropping Thursday this week. We've got 6 games plus a cool little segment we're going to add about USC, Army, and Notre Dame. But for this week's games, first one, Connecticut at Syracuse. Boy, this is you hold your breath and just hope the airplane actually flies game. I would not have guessed this, especially since Syracuse just coming off. Now it's one data point, but a big win at Cal. They actually knocked Cal out of the elite defenses with that performance. What's interesting to me is the best unit that's on the field, though, is the Connecticut defense, which is really significant because if you're familiar with Jim Moore Jr., his background as a defensive coordinator. So I think this could be something that's for real here. McCord's been really good at times, but it's not like he's been unbelievable. 1.1 offensive power rating. 91 Apex is okay, fine, but he was much better at Ohio State. And this is a stingy pass defense here. When I'm trying to understand the path to how this thing covers, it's like I was really unconvinced about Pitt and Clemson after talking about it for a while. It's okay, that's what keeps us in there. I think it's the Connecticut pass defense that if we're looking for what makes this bet come through, I think it's this Connecticut pass defense keeps it within 10 points.
Yeah, it is interesting. This is not one that if I would have thought about it. It's like I would not have thought this would be
No.
a game that I would be like, oh yeah, Connecticut is in this game. I would not have thought that. I thought Cal was going to beat Syracuse last week. Didn't bet that, but that was definitely the thought. And there's that. There's also there is one angle to this too that the models may not even necessarily be seeing. Syracuse did go to Cal, and now they're coming all the way back. Connecticut is just going to Syracuse. That's not
Oh,
particularly far. Syracuse is upstate New York. You're looking at a couple-hour bus ride. That's it. It's a nice bus ride too. I've actually driven a bit through Massachusetts. It's beautiful, like forests and stuff. It's nice. Um, there's other. I guess there's if you drive through some factories or something in other road trips. I guess that's worse. But no, it's actually a beautiful road trip. There might be a little bit of hangover from the upset of Cal and stuff like that. This maybe could be a bit of spot where they might be able to catch Syracuse sleeping a little bit.
yeah. And all of Connecticut's 3 losses are to FBS teams. So it's not like they've had a sneaky competent season this year. Haven't had, I don't know. It's interesting. So I didn't play a full unit on this, but just, I don't know. Who knows? This could be on CW as well, or just on that other weird channel that we got from time to time that often featured Virginia last year. I'll maybe watch this one. Don't think I'll watch this next one unless it's close. Unless it's close to 41 point margin at the end of the game here. I don't get this. Because I'm not as smart as my model, I'll put it that way. UTEP, just from a narrative standpoint, I made a what we call a conversation piece sized bet on them over 4 wins, just because they did have one of the best quarterbacks in Conference USA returning, and that the coach screwed that up. He brought in a lot of guys. The new coach did from Austin P, where he was pretty successful. That's not worked out so well. This coach is just an absolute master at just losing games he should win. I don't know how he had any success at Austin P. Just a reminder, he's the guy that coached Southern Miss for 2 weeks in the COVID season, then just left to go to Austin P. I guess the fact that I don't even know how to frame this. Let's put it this way. UTEP managed to go to overtime against Kennesaw State. So I don't, my eyeballs just say, if I'm using the stupid college football playoff committee jargon, UTEP does not pass the eyeball test. And yet our models have like basically the exact same game here.
Yeah, that is when that happens. That's freaky, and like there's times when we've had that. That's usually been pretty good. I think there's a couple times it's been off, but usually when we have the exact same score, that means something. And especially something like this, if it's like, oh, here's an important game, and we have roughly the same score, okay, whatever, and it's basically the line, fine, whatever. But this is a game that neither of us were. I did not wake up today thinking, what do I have in UTEP versus Tennessee? And I did not think that. But it's such a weird score too, 29-9, like what 30-10, like it's such a weird score that I almost believe it, because the model is very clearly trying to say something. I'm just not sure exactly what it's trying to say, but both of them are trying to say it. The thing is, the interesting thing about this is the fact that is the UTEP plus 41 a better play, or is the under 55 a better play? Because
Yeah.
if the Tennessee defense is that good and stops UTEP from scoring, the thing is there is not a lot of scenarios where it's like Tennessee covers the 41-42, but yet they're also going over. There's a couple of scenarios where this is 48 nothing or nothing or something like that, but there's not a lot of scenarios where it's like 48-10 or something.
It's interesting. The market's basically implying with the side and total here that it's a 48-7 game. Um, what's interesting is we basically have the 7 here,
Mhm.
but we're well below on the 48. It's a weird way to get to the same outcome is if you had to give me one team total to play under, assuming those are the numbers, 7 and 48, it would not be the Tennessee side. It would definitely be the UTEP under 7.
And this is the thing, right? I'm almost wondering if somewhere in there they're pricing in a little. Tennessee wants to have a really big number after last week. So I wonder if that maybe our models aren't catching that. But either way, like the thing is, this is. I'm surprised you didn't point this out. This is actually technically a dual model, dual play. It's an under and spread play, technically both. I think, right? Yeah, it should be both.
Yeah, 37. Yeah, it is.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a spread. I played the under
I
already. I'm not
told you.
sure. Yeah, I
Oh.
don't know if I want to play the spread. I don't know. I feel like they're this in a game like this, they're both the same. Because I feel like you could either bet the over, you could bet either the under or the spread, and I don't think it really matters that much.
You're
Um,
basically, yeah, more or less just predicting this or playing on the same outcome.
yeah, it's not really. There's not a huge bunch of variance there for that. Yeah, I mean, I think I like the under a tad more than I like the spread in this game. But it is interesting that our models are so close on this. I want to see how this ends. This is curious. This is curious for me now.
Yeah, I think I might run that Athena number that we talked about this one. That would be a good test case just to see if that also comes to a 20-point margin here. All right. Much more confident in this one here. Caden Simoza did do me in a couple of weeks ago in one of those 2 brutal regression weeks where he bladed his way off the bum list. I'm much more confident in the ability of Bowling Green to contain him. This is a very good pass defense here. I will, on the other hand, point out that if this is your defensive apex that Ball State has a 150 and you're a MAC team, you are facing some really bad quarterbacks. And if you're giving up that much, if you've got a guy that's competent like Bazelak, it is going to be a long day for your defense. It's just, I think this game is just that simple. We've got, again, this is basically, we've got the same outcome here 38-19 and 39-18. So, yeah, definitely down with the Falcons here.
Yeah, I like Bowling Green as well. I think this one is weirdly not a weekday game. We actually have nothing on any of the weekday games. Yeah, no, we don't. So that is interesting. This game is weirdly like a noon, I think. I think it's noon on Saturday. But yeah, no, I like Bowling Green here. I think Bowling Green is this is a good play. Um, yeah, we'll take Bowling Green.
Sure of that. Yeah, that's the one Saturday game. Starting at the very unusual kickoff time of 2 Eastern.
Hmm.
Boy,
That
they
is a
really
bit.
want to bury this one, huh?
Yeah, they really. We don't want it. We don't want people seeing this game.
All right. Cal's a team that owes me money. They've burned me on a lot of unders. Now, to the point where they're not even bettable on unders now. Their defensive rating has slipped. But still, they are going, notwithstanding that ridiculous game that Stanford just played against Louisville that we talked about in the Week 12 review. You've still got a horrible passing offense here. I don't. I've got so many horrible data points on their quarterback that I'm not going to believe one fluky game against Louisville. That just seems like the one off of one offs. What I've been saying for a while, California's offense is underappreciated. It's not awesome, but this is not your typical Cal just play defense and just run the ball and just don't do anything in passing the ball. As I outlined last week in my argument about who's the worst offense in the country, it ain't Cal. It's not even close. You've got an above average quarterback here, and this has been a problem all season, the pass defense for Stanford. So pretty unusual. I think that people don't really see this as Cal winning this one through the air, and they probably won't throw 50 passes or anything. You and I basically have more roughly the same score here. Cal in the 30s, Stanford with basically one score plus, if you will. Here, I have no fears about this one here. I like the Bears for sure.
This is like one of your classic regression games where it's like Cal massively underperformed the spread and Stanford
Yeah.
massively overperformed the spread in 1 week. So this is one of the ones where you say, oh, okay, this is like regression for both. It's regression down for Stanford, regression up for Cal, and then you get that number.
Yeah, just if we don't even let's just going back to this. If you don't even have to run the ball, I just this is just the explosivity difference right here and the efficiency difference right here, and then just the difference in the passing offenses right here. This could be like Cal games in like 3-1 in the air without any problems here. I don't know. Just market spin off on Cal, says the guy who's been burned on them on unders like a lot. But I say they're really bad on Cal in the openers too. Remember, they actually wound up not covering against Miami because that game got bet all the way down to 7.5. But I
Yeah.
think that game opened at like 13 or 12 or something like that. So I think the market struggles with Cal until basically the betters put it in place. Whoever's setting the openers is not really the final voice when it comes to the Bears.
Cal has been. I'm just trying to plug my headphone in because I think it's beeping to tell me that it's dying. But no, Cal has been such a weird team this year, right? You have these games, especially the Miami. We all remember the Miami game, where they have been very competitive in a lot of these games that they probably shouldn't have been competitive in. And yet here we are, right? And then at the same time, you're like, oh, that team that almost beat Miami, they've got to be competitive they've got to be able to beat up on
Florida State, for example.
yeah, Florida State. They'll have to beat Florida State. They have to be able to beat Syracuse, right? But no, they do not, right? So this is the problem with this Cal team is that when you think they're going to do good, they don't do good. When you think they're going to do bad, they do good, right? So it's a
They
classic.
kind of the ACC version of Liberty losing to Kennesaw State with that loss at Florida State there.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Looking at my chops at this one. We've got both our models just threw Central Florida the top 20 from out of nowhere. I like
Mhm.
that. I like that. I don't know. I don't know if there's a way to Google it real quick. Is Garrett Green still starting? I don't know. I would hope so. I would also say that I'd want to see now that they have some film on the other guy. If the other guy's in there, that might be a different kind of matter than just like the total unknown quantity. That Coleco guy,
Mhm.
whatever. But the only thing that would concern me is at times the Central Florida passing game has just been absolutely abysmal. Just absolutely abysmal. I think if they have this is one of their spots where they can have a better game with West Virginia, just absolutely brutal against the pass. This is like Middle Tennessee State kind of level bad. When this team, Central Florida, can both run and pass, it's over. This is either a game where this covers by 3 scores or West Virginia wins by 10. I don't even see this is like the barbell, I guess, is what you pollsters would call it. I don't see this coming close to the number here. And I'm confident that it's Central Florida. Just I love this matchup right here against this, and this is very forgiving. You've actually got West Virginia scoring more, which I can see. Central Florida's had problems at times on defense, but we both have the Knights with about the same number on offense here. So even actually, that's mine. That's more forgiving to West Virginia. But even here, there's enough margin here. So love this one. Already have played it. Looking forward to this one. We'll see if it's on TV.
Yeah, I agree with this one as well. I think it really shouldn't be close, really. If you think about it, UCF is a better team. West Virginia seems to be fading. It doesn't make sense. Now the thing is, what I will say is that this is one of the times our model usually likes to seem to pick on West Virginia at home because I think the books give them a little too much credit at home. I think this might be that case, and the last time we did this, it worked pretty well. So let's see if this works this week as well.
Yep. All right. I'm curious what you're going to say about this one because are the Bulldogs going to do it again? Um,
Maybe. Here's the thing, right? You have a Arkansas team that was surprisingly competitive with Texas through that game, right? And I really think people are going to say, "Oh, okay, clearly Arkansas is way better than we thought they were." So therefore, I think that's where you get like this 21 is a big number.
is
Now to
it?
be fit,
Doesn't it stink? Doesn't it at the same time? Doesn't the casual better just say Arkansas will give only 21 to Louisiana Tech? Louisiana Tech's going to fire their coach. Louisiana Tech's won 3 games.
but I think that's one of the reasons why it stinks. Remember another time that a there was a time last year that an SEC team played a Conference USA team,
Yes.
and they
You're
were
not
20
doing this,
something
are you?
point favorites.
You're not comparing Louisiana Tech to New Mexico State last year, are you?
No,
Really?
I know we can't. We how
Okay.
dare we slander Diego Pavia? But again, there are some similarities here. I think there is. I don't think that. I think that when you get into these games, a lot of bettors think these are just all blowouts, and that it's all the SEC team. Of course, they're going to cover the spread. And Arkansas almost beat Texas last week. Do you think they're not going to destroy this Conference USA team? But this is where the bookmakers make a lot of money when these. Oh, this is like big. They make a lot of money on these games where people will like randomly be like, "Of course, Arkansas is going to cover that." I'd love to see where the liability comes in. I feel like this is. I like if you follow a lot of the bookmakers on Twitter, they'll say where the money's coming in. I feel like this has we need Louisiana Tech. Sharp money is on Louisiana
Yeah.
Tech. I feel like that has this written all over it.
I think this has moved up already, too.
It has actually moved up to
Yeah.
22. Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me. Here's what's interesting. Our models, differ a lot, and that's one of the things that's fun about Island Time is we dig into what we think is the reason why, and then I'll call it when I don't believe in my model. I've already got one of those games. Um, it's really interesting though. We have UTEP and Tennessee. We have almost the exact same total score. We have Louisiana Tech and Arkansas. We have almost the exact same score. We had very similar scores last year for New Mexico State at Auburn. And what's interesting there is those are all Conference USA at SEC teams. And I wonder if we're so close because we normalize the data the same way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Similar way. You do it like the way I used to in one of my old models, but I try to incorporate that as much as possible. You've got it to the next level in terms of using conferences as like a subset. But I wonder if the same theory is why we're just coming up with these. It's crazy. It's not like we're coming up with the same numbers on whatever the game of the week is, whatever it is. Like the next one, for example, one of the biggest games of the week. It's just on these random ones that are on nobody's radar. It's just we're just right there. So I want to see what the Athena number comes to that one too. That's going to be interesting. But it's just crazy that like late season November, Conference USA at SEC, just boom, boom, boom. We've got the same predicted outcomes. This is where we're different, although we have Army as a play here, and that doesn't surprise me as we've both had Army consistently in the top 10. I think we both had, or I have Army actually ahead of Notre Dame, and you might too. Um, I've made the point for a while, and I made it pretty strenuously during Island Time last week. Do not confuse Army with Navy. Army is a serious defensive team. Navy is not. This is a really good defensive team, guys. Now, they've not faced an offense as potent as Army. I've had Notre Dame as a like a top 5 or 6 running team basically for most of the season. How about something that I did not expect to say in August of this year? I have to see Riley Leonard prove himself against this Army pass defense. Wow. Didn't see that one coming here. You've got elite defenses here, both on both sides of the ball, and Army's a better offense. I have them as a better offense, and I think that if we break it down, you would too, since you actually have them winning by 2 scores. I got them keeping it close, but we both have a total of what? You've got 37, I've got 44. So I'm on the number here, but we both have it well within range of the 16 and a half. And this has actually come down since then. I think it's a
14 and a
14.
half, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm saying 14,
So
14 and a half, yeah.
I got the good side of the number here, but yeah, did you play this one?
I've got 14 and a half, yeah. There's not a huge difference between 16 and a half and 14 and a half, so I'm okay with that. But no, again, it is fascinating where we see this number. And both of us have this as a play at both numbers. It doesn't matter if it's 14 and a half or 16 and a half. That doesn't matter. I will say that I feel like the reason this spread is this big is because Notre Dame beat up Navy. And that's why, because people are like, oh, okay, well, it's the same. Army and Navy are the same. Therefore, it's going to be the same. But Army was very clearly the better team the whole way around. And again, like, Notre Dame's strength is its rushing attack. Army's strength is its rushing defense, right? Like this is the thing. Army is very good defensively. Notre Dame is also good defensively, but actually worse on the worse rush defense than Army. So, and the interesting thing I will say about this is the total is 44. So they like the thing is it's interesting here, right? Because with a total of 44, you usually don't have a pretty big spread in that game. And the spread is 16 or was 16 and a half, call it 14 and a half now. So basically they're saying this is like a blowout for one team. This is 21 to 10, not 21 to 10. It'd be like a what? Would it be like a 28 to 10 blowout, something like that, close to that, some number like that. That's what the books are saying, something like that. And that's a possibility, I guess. If you were to say that, if I was to say the game is 28 to 10, I feel like that would be a Notre Dame thing. But if you're just looking at generally lower scoring game, that would favor Army, and I want to have the 14 and a half points with an Army team there. Like the thing is with a lot now, Navy obviously is there as well, and that is an issue, and Navy we'll have to see. But Navy did underperform in that game. But at the same point in time, with a lot of these, this is an army, this is a recruit school, a U.S. Army school, right? These are cadets, right? You give them a chance. You say, hey, guess what? Go take out Notre Dame. You get to go to the playoff. You get to go to the playoff. This is your shot right here. Those kids are going to be pretty fired up for this game. You're telling them, hey, guess what? This is your chance that you get a chance to knock off Notre Dame in prime time at Notre Dame Stadium. Those kids are going to be so insanely psyched for this game. And yeah, the other thing is the fact that the quarterback for Army was injured. He did sit a game, came back, played the game against North Texas, but they've had a bye week. Notre Dame, okay, yeah, they mauled Virginia, that's fine, but they did not have a bye week. You give Army an entire week to rest up, get everybody healthy. That's the whole point of the Army game is it is triple option. Yes, it's triple option plus a bunch of passing, but you give that team that's going to try to grind you down, you give them an extra week of rest before probably the most important game of the season. Yeah, this may not go the way Notre Dame thinks it's going to go.
Yeah, I'm sorry for opening up Excel here and fouling that up. I've screwed up something here. This game is, I'm pretty sure this game is at Yankee Stadium,
Oh,
right?
that's right. Yeah, it is at Yankee Stadium. Yeah.
I've got a different outcome here.
You're going to have Army by one, right?
I've got this a split game. I've got it basically even now, literally.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. One other thing that sticks out to me, two things. Army's best win so far is North Texas, who I like, but they're a half a team, and they play into Army. Like Army's got a really good pass defense, and they proved it against North Texas. North Texas is a legitimate pass offense. I bring that up because this is a totally different kind of animal here. Notre Dame I've been very high on. I got past there, lost to Northern Illinois pretty quickly. So it's a proof of concept here. But here's what I'm catching now in a lot of these plays that we've had here. So we've had UTEP, Tennessee, Louisiana Tech, Arkansas. We both like Army against Notre Dame, and we both like Connecticut versus Syracuse. You've got a lot of this late season, like how do I equate two teams from very different tiers of the college football universe, and how do I normalize that to get to plays? And it's interesting that we have so many of our plays are basically like lesser teams against teams in major conferences. All but one so far, which is that Central Florida play, which is fascinating to me, but makes sense. See, last year, Jacksonville State at South Carolina and New Mexico State at Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we can look in a couple of them. All right. This one shocked me. And then once I pull it up, I did not see this coming at all. We both have, if there is a 2024 Narduzzi Award winner, he is in this game, and he's not from the school that usually claims that award. And yet, both our models like Mr. Hugh Freeze to win this one straight up as a 3-point home dog. And I get it. What's surprising to me is Auburn's got the better defense here. The best squad on the field in this game is the Auburn defense, too. I'm not going to argue with my model saying that Auburn's offense is as good as A&M's, but it's proven here. Okay, maybe A&M's a little better on the run offense here. You've got a better run defense here by Auburn. Okay, maybe A&M's a little bit better versus the pass too, but Auburn's more explosive in the passing game. Did not expect this. We've both got the dog winning straight up here. Now, we don't have them by enough for it to be an officially a wrong team favored play. This has since moved to 2.5. I'm just hanging around, hoping it'll bump up to 3. Don't know if that'll happen. That's maybe a good question for Duck since he's a good markets guy. But I don't know. If it goes down, I've got room here until it basically gets to a 1-point game. So I'll just wait it out here. I don't care between 2.5 and 1. If it's down to 1, I'll probably just make it a money line play instead.
Yeah, I took a little at the two. I got 2.5 today on my books. I took a little bit of that for now, at least. I'd rather have a 3. It could get up to 3. It would be really interesting and cause a lot of chaos in the SEC if Auburn actually did win this game. It would, on one hand, make everything easier, but then also could make this even worse because if A&M lost to Auburn and then A&M beat Texas, then like all hell breaks loose. Then we're in the 6-way tie scenario. And man, I don't know.
And what? And the Sugar Bowl president is there to figure it all out, Robert. Come on. What do you
I mean,
think?
how is the SEC even going to figure this out?
Maybe
I
they
mean,
call the Super Bowl president and say, what would you do here?
yeah, like you just call in like the bullpen and be like, all right, who do we play in the championship game?
Yeah,
Like
who do you want to say?
it's I don't even. This would be insane. If it
Yeah.
would be one, it would be really funny if Auburn did win this game.
Yeah.
On the other hand, and the thing is, you can see it, right? Texas A&M looking ahead to Texas next week gets caught by an Auburn team again. This is a pretty low. We have this as a pretty low scoring game. This has a trap. This has trap game written all over it. I could see it. I really could see it, and I think there's a decent chance that yeah, Auburn could upset Texas A&M, and that would cause even more chaos in the SEC and in the college football rankings because again, they're gonna want to. They're gonna want to put all 6 teams in. They want this. Like if it's a 6-way tie for the SEC, they're gonna want to put all 6 in there. But the problem is that at that point, okay, one of these teams one of those 6 has to play for the SEC championship game, and then one of those has to lose the SEC championship game. So then one of them has to have 3 losses, but then you're gonna say we can't punish them for losing that game, but then you're gonna punish some other random team for either not winning its conference or losing its like. So this is where I we like Auburn winning this game would go a long way to basically eliminating the committee. I feel like the committee is rooting for Texas A&M in this game because
Yeah.
like
Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
no, we're a chaos scenario or 2 away from the SEC, and 'cause the thing is again, this will break the way of the SEC, and maybe it always will, and maybe that's the ace the SEC is going to have up their sleeve forever and always because the ESPN does own the rights to the SEC, so that was always going to happen. But I think there's a point in here where the SEC is going to realize, hey, you know what? We could have gotten screwed out of this too. If the reverse happened, if it was, and again, you can very easily gerrymander your way to a 6-way tie scenario in the Big Ten. Not impossible. The only reason we don't have that scenario in the Big Ten is because a couple of teams underperformed, like USC, like a couple of traditional powerhouse teams underperformed. If they had overperformed, then you could be looking at basically the exact same logjam in the Big Ten as well, where the SEC might sit down and do some introspection and be like, hey, we lucked out this time, but in the future, we could be on the short end of the stick here too. That's, I think, the nightmare scenario for the committee here, where if there is this chaos, and it's especially if this is the first year of this and there's all this chaos, the case for, because again, this is this year and next year, and then after that it's up for renewal. If you're, because the decision for what will happen after next year will be made next year. And if your only base case for this was there was mass chaos and we stuck 6 SEC teams in, other people are going to be like, what the heck, man? Why'd you do that? That was insane. The rules made no sense. We're getting rid of you. There's a non-zero scenario where the committee doesn't exist anymore after this. I think there's a good chance that we could be just looking at that.
I think you're way overblowing this because you're forgetting that the football fans in that part of the country are known for being very level-headed and reasonable when discussing these kind of matters. Yeah, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and just say you don't understand that part of the country, okay?
Maybe the introspection of, hey, maybe we could get the short end of the stick next time.
Yeah.
That might not. I don't think that's gonna. That was more a
No.
joke. I don't think that's happening.
What's going to happen is all the numerous Buddhist temples in that part of the country will be filled with people just contemplating what's really important in their lives, and this will be just an afterthought. All right, sneaky. Our team in the latter part of this season has been Nevada. I'm guessing if I'm just trying to look real quick and say what is the market, why are they different from us? I guess they're reading into Air Force with a weird, improbable win, butt kicking really of Fresno State, and then a totally believable, but yet basically anybody does that butt kicking of Oregon State. I've pointed out several times the problems that Oregon State has on both sides of the ball. And again, I maybe if I do a little transitive here, I think that the market has struggled to properly, as we saw just last week, properly value Washington State and Oregon State as relates to Mountain West teams. So maybe Air Force is getting too much shine here. We have this as a 17 and 15 point game. I'm super confident in that. Just these are two different teams in totally different places. Now maybe Air Force has found their offense, but I would not bet my hard-earned dollars on that when I've got a lot more significant positive data points on Nevada here.
Yeah, I agree. I actually really like Nevada here. I think this is now people massively overestimating Air Force after they destroyed Oregon State. So yeah, give me Nevada here. This I love our models here, and the fact that our models are in complete agreement about this game makes me pretty confident about it. Nevada, it's our Wolfpack in the final couple of weeks here.
Yes. All right, and then we've got one under here. Not surprising, a couple of under teams here, especially with Texas. I've had them with the best defense for pretty much all season here. Have I mentioned how much I love Bush Hamden in a situation like this? Using your logic, let's look at the market here. They're predicting, what is that, 26, so 13, 33 to 13 for Kentucky. I like our outcomes better. I have that very common football score of 32 to 4 in favor of Texas. These feel right here. You're right up against the margin here. When you've got a defense that's this good, you can get you need a 5 point margin. We've got it here. So if it moves below 46, 46 is still playable. If it goes below that, then that's not a dual model play. As I've said though, I still play even the ones that aren't dual model on my totals. Again, just to boil it down to this simple: Bush Hamden against the best defense in the country, easy peasy for me. I'll play this as soon as the numbers drop here.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I think you have to keep in mind that with Texas A&M on deck next week, I think at a certain point they're gonna call off the dogs and be like, all right, pack it in here, guys. Let's get some. Because here's the thing: Texas very important. Their rushing game very important. A lot of their key pieces on offensive line. On this is okay. We're up 28-0, or we're up 21-7. Let's just slow roll this game, run it out, throw Archie Manning in for the fourth quarter, right? That's where we're at in this game, where it's don't risk anything, just beat them
Yeah.
down, grind them out. I think you might see if Texas gets up like 38, like 28 points, like 28-0 or something like that, hell, even 21-0, you might start seeing them really take the foot off the gas and just be like, let's make sure everybody's healthy for next week.
Yeah. The other thing too that's probably I might be a little generous here on this 32. As I mentioned in the Week 12 review, yours has a really lower apex since he's been coming back for that injury. This number, the offensive rating, drives the model prediction here. And I think if we broke this down to what we're actually getting from Quinn Ewers lately, this number would be lower. And so this 32 probably becomes something closer to 28 or 27. I'm just guessing here. Who knows? So I think there's even more margin than that within my number here. So I've got that as almost the only play. As you mentioned, the UTEP in Tennessee is also a dual model play. So hopefully people are listening, not just looking at the graphics, but need to keep that in mind. Checking in on some preseason predictions. Robert, it's your last chance.
Yeah, it's been a rough year for me for upsets here. I think we got one chance left here. One
I like your
shot.
chances, though.
I do.
Horribly
Yeah.
overrated Utah against suddenly resurgent and finding themselves Iowa State.
I I hope so, man. This would be like obviously one I wouldn't hit any upsets for the year, which would be very sad. But on the flip side, I would also lose my Iowa State to win the Big Ten, the Big 12 bet.
Mm.
And yeah, I'm really hoping Utah isn't able to do much in this game. So we're here's hoping. And if Iowa State wins this game, and if Iowa State wins out based on the chaos we could see, especially if the absolute best outcome for me in the Big 12, if Iowa State wins out and Arizona State wins out, then in Iowa State, Arizona State Big 12 championship would be cool because it's, oh, cool.
Nice.
Whoever wins this game, I win like $300. Cool. That's great. I would love that. Again, Iowa State, you know the mission. You know what to do. You got this.
Yeah. All right. And then the first time I'm putting this up there, I've had a lot of misses on this, on our preseason conference title game predictions. I'm already out for sure. And some of this is a little judgmental. So this isn't exact, but I've got 6 that are crossed off already. You're down to 4. You've got 4. And the guests have 5 that are out so far. So all of us are still in on these 3, the MAC, the Mountain West, and the SEC. Other than that, Isaiah's got both sides of his what looks like almost a lock, unless Ohio State stubs their toe against Indiana here.
It would be, I would call it now. It'd be really funny if Ohio State lost to Indiana and then they lost to Michigan. That'd be, do you know how funny that would be?
Oh my God.
Like, it would be so funny. I don't think it would happen, but it'd be really funny if it did.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still going back to this was a play for me that's still alive. Iowa State, I
Yeah.
had to win that conference. Those are on life. Well, SMU's looking good. Iowa State's kind of on, I don't want to say life support, but that's looking, I need a lot of things to fall my way on that. And then UNLV, that's really on life support. I don't think Colorado State's going to dump that one and hand it over to UNLV, even though they are the best team in the conference by my measure here. And I had Western Michigan. I don't know if you followed me on that. And I think Duck actually had Bowling Green to win the MAC, if I remember correctly, which I had to stifle a laugh, but he's looking pretty smart now.
I have that as well. I think my SEC championship game is impossible, but I do like the odds of one of them making it. I think.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I don't know. It
Just
might,
mass
again, it might
chaos.
just come down to Mike Sankey calling the Sugar Bowl president saying, what would you do? What do you want?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Robert. That is it for our week 13 preview. Good luck to you. Thank you for pointing out my miss on the UTEP Tennessee under. I will revise the notes and I will be sure to put that out when we tweet this out. I will talk to you in 2 nights when we do Island Time with Duck. And if you're watching this, you should probably be watching that. If you think this is a sharp podcast, that is a very sharp podcast about the smartest talk you're going to have about people that actually know what they're doing when it comes to playing this sport, that don't hide their stuff behind paywalls or just don't want to tell anybody because they bet millions of dollars a year. So your best bang for your buck in this space. So Robert, I will talk to you then. Until then, thank you so much for listening and watching, and we will talk to you on Island Time.
Yep. See you, everybody.